Okay, well, welcome to Skyroot. It's a Monday evening here, and I'm gonna do a little overview of the things that you're gonna need if you want to set up a home irrigation system using drip irrigation. So I always tell this story that when I'm teaching, because I set up my first home drip irrigation system on the eve of my honeymoon, and we used a water timer and put that timer in, and we bought the timer especially so that I set up the system and we put the entire garden on a timed every 2 days the water just came on and watered my garden, and we called it the honeymoon timer because it allowed us to go on honeymoon. When we came home 2 weeks later, our garden was like this lush and beautiful and incredible space, and it was a great gift to our neighborhood that year. So I set up my first irrigation system in took me about 4 hours, and so you should definitely plan a chunk of time. If you're working even in a small space, there's always things you're going to need to troubleshoot to make work for you. So I have a couple of pieces of equipment here. I've got one thing of everything I think you need to set this up, and all of my equipment for drip irrigation came from the company DripWorks, and I'm not a salesperson for DripWorks, but I will say that I think DripWorks irrigation is just terrific irrigation. I would urge you to choose it. So the very first thing you're going to need when you start to get started on your project, I'm assuming you're living in an urban area, which means you probably have access to city water. And if that's the case, making the choice to go with drip lines is a very good option because drip lines don't use as much water, so you'll save a lot on your water bill. The first thing you're going to need is a flow reducer. And this is a valve that's going to bring the pressure coming out of your household city water system, which is probably close to 30 pounds per square inch, down to a much lower pressure of something about 10 pounds per square inch. So this is a pressure reducer and a flow reducer, so it's going to reduce the flow to about 7 gallons per minute coming through this valve, and that's just going to protect your drip tape from the high pressure systems that households use. Drip tape uses very low pressure. It's one of the beautiful things about drip tape. So this is the really important part. It's called a pressure reducer. So you need that, and this connects directly to your hose, right up to the hose bib. So if this is your hose, connect that right to the faucet. The next thing you're going to need is a filter unit, because all of the even water that we're drinking out of from the regular city system often has small little pieces of particulate matter, and those small little pieces of particulate matter they flow into the drip tape, and the drip tape has these tiny little microtubules in it that are what allow it to produce this consistent low drip, like one drip every 2 seconds, because the water's working its way through this fine little microtubule that can't afford to get clogged. So you need a filter that's going to filter out really fine pieces of dirt and schmutz from the water. And so this filter is great. It goes on like that. So the water would come out your hose. There it is. Come out your hose. In this case, we need a coupler here to connect this to that, and then from here out into your irrigation system. Does that make sense? This has a nice valve on it that allows this to open up, and it could clean out that filter. But if you do have a filter like this on your system, probably every week or two you would just go through, open this up, take this out, scrub it. I usually keep a toothbrush near my filter, scrub it out with a toothbrush, slip it back in, and it's ready to go. So in this case, the water goes in this side and is forced down, pushed through this filter, and then goes back up and goes out the other way. That's how the flow works. It's a great little invention. A lot of these parts and pieces for irrigation systems were actually invented in Israel, where they do a lot of dry gardening, so in the arid desert, to really reduce any water losses. And drip irrigation is the most efficient form of water use you could have on a farm, so really important. Okay, so this attached to your hose, and then from your hose attach it to a filter. From the filter, you want to get it into a pipe. In this case, the filter is going to need to attach to something that's going to allow it to get into a 3/4 inch pipe. So I've got this other adapter here. And then this, it's a cute little barbed end, just slides into my 3/4 inch pipe, and I could have my 3/4 inch pipe could be really long. In this case, I've just grabbed a very short section of pipe for the purposes of our movie, but I could have a long piece of 3/4 inch pipe that could go, 30 feet out to where my garden is. At the end of my 3/4 inch pipe, I think it's a really good idea to have some kind of a valve, and I absolutely love these valves, so I just want to show you. This valve is really cool. It has this sleeve, it screws on, pull it out, really easy to pull out, push it in, slip the sleeve over the pipe, tighten it down, and voila, you have a fitting. And now I could close off this or turn it on and send the water where I want to. So really nice to have valves built into your system. And these easy lock valves is what they're called, and they're really good because they save you having to have a pipe clamp. If I push this in here like that, then I have to have a separate clamp around the end here that's going to hold that tight. And the clamp that you need to do that is called a pipe clamp. I'll show you one of those on our system over there. Okay, so the next thing that you would need to set up your drip system is some drip line. So this is what drip line looks like. You can't see it too well, but I'll see if I can come a little close to the camera here. There are tiny little holes in this drip line. There's an example of the hole right there. I don't know if the camera is focused on my finger or not, but one tiny little slit every 8 inches on this line. And so I would want to get the water from my main line into my drip line, and in order to do that, I need an emitter. And this is what an emitter looks like. The emitter has two ends, a pointy end that has an opening that allows a small amount of water in, and then the other end, which has another of those easy lock fittings. So this just slides over there, and then this fitting screws down and clips on to the drip tape. And so then you have your drip tape laid out where you want it. This part, you need to punch a hole in the main line, and they make a special tool for that. And so this is what that tool looks like. And you just push it in, it makes a hole, and then you pop this into there, and you're all set to go. Now, if you're like me, sometimes you might put your hole in your pipe in the wrong place, and so they actually make a little plug for that. It's called a goof plug, and you can stop a hole that's in the wrong place on your main line. And then the last thing is, sometimes you have really zealous tractor drivers or lawnmowers, or who knows, children who poke holes in your drip line. So this is a coupler. You can cut a broken piece of drip line, cut the part out that's broken, and couple two ends together to have a continuous unit of drip line on a bed. So I want to take you out in the field and show you what all these things look like in place. My system isn't set up for a household, it's set up for a farm, but actually the setup is pretty much very similar. So let me take you out there and show you this. Alright, so here we are at Skyroot Farm, looking at a drip line header, looking out over some really beautiful crops here that have clearly been getting the right amount of water. So this first line is potatoes, followed by some onions, followed by, yeah, that's lettuce. No, it's not, it's spinach. Good God, Eli. Spinach is in the, that's right, Chenopodiaceae family. Okay, so coming on down here, I want to show you some innovations, some farm hacks that you can use on your own property as well. So one, I'm standing right in the light of it. One farm innovation here is right here in front of me. It's this little bit of line right here. Do you see it? Where it's just, we didn't have a goof plug. We've got an emitter, but we don't want to run a line there, so we just cut a little piece and wrap it up like a sleeve. And so that's a little farm hack, how to create an end. And then down here, we're coming to the end of the line. So something else you got to think about is what you're going to do when you get to the end of your irrigation line. How you're going to stop the water from flowing. And there's a couple ways to do that, but one way is the way that it's done right here, where we have a line with a pipe clamp. See, I said I would show you a pipe clamp. That's what a pipe clamp looks like, on a plug, and it just ends there. Another way to do it is to take your line and fold it a bunch of times like that, and then zip tie it closed, and that will usually keep the water out too. So pretty much anything you can get a special part for, you can usually also do with a little bit of ingenuity and thought to make your lines work for you. I want to walk down to the end here and just show you how we make our end caps, and then we'll end this section on drip tape. Okay, so here we are at the end of the potato line. So just checking out these wonderful potatoes here, and you'll see the ends are just like those other ends I showed you, fold over with a little sleeve tucked over the top. I'm going to see if I can set the camera down here. So let me just move the camera a tiny bit. So see how this is folded over? This is the end of the line. In order to keep the water from running out, we just fold it up, squeeze it, and then slip another little cut of drip tape over the top. That's actually a little farm hack. They sell these special things you can do this with, but it's just as easy to fold it up with your hands and cap it that way. So something I would recommend.